Byron, Lambert, RosterWatch.com here at day one of joint training camp practices between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins as part of the 2019 RosterWatch.com training camp tour, where we're out on the road mining fantasy football intelligence for your drafts and for your leagues. We're going to dominate this year at RosterWatch.com. The big story of the day, the big sick beast Mike Evans destroying the Miami Dolphins defensive backs, taking every single one of them to school, including in the red zone, up and down the field, with the exception of one really nice interception by Dolphins Pro Bowl cornerback Xavier Howard. Of course, there's a lot of attention on the wide receivers behind Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting lineup. Chris Godwin has been the subject of quite a bit of acclaim so far in Bucs training camp. By all accounts, it's been an impeccable training camp for Chris Godwin, ready to break out in his second year. Now, look, I saw a guy that was explosive in his routes. He was able to get open, but made a few uncharacteristic drops today. We're going to get back out here tomorrow to see if he's able to correct those errors. But maybe the biggest takeaway is that the uncontested starting wide receiver 3 on this Buccaneers offense is Brashad Perriman, a player who's really underperformed in his career and been hampered by injuries, but was an excellent prospect coming out. I saw a guy that still has plenty of speed, big catch radius, a little stiff in and out of his breaks, but certainly the subject of a lot of targets from Jameis Winston today. And you begin to wonder, there could be some fantasy value in a Bruce Arians wide receiver 3 catching passes from a Jameis Winston, at least on a week-to-week basis in our DFS lineups and maybe in our flex spot in the deepest of our standard and traditional leagues. Then when you look at the running back situation in Tampa, it's still pretty clearly a running back by committee. Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, definitely saw a little bit of Andre Ellington today, who still looks like an excellent pass catcher and most likely just helping the young pups get up to speed here pretty quickly in a Bruce Arians offense. I do expect Ellington to get some snaps and to play a little bit this year. However, it does look mostly like a running back by committee between Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones, both of whom look good, caught the ball pretty well, looked pretty good running the ball. I'd have to say, though, at this point, if I had to put my money down, it does appear that Peyton Barber would potentially be considered the lead back in this committee. And then speaking of the committee on the Dolphins side of the ball, it was all Kalen Ballage today, getting a ton of reps with the ones. We've heard this narrative throughout training camp, and he popped off some big explosive plays in the running game between the tackles. This is something we've seen from him out of Arizona State all the way back to the Senior Bowl when we scouted him there. However, the major appeal with Kalen Ballage is his 3-down capability, and today was littered with 3 really, really bad drops for Kalen Ballage. Don't expect that to be a trend, but certainly something we're going to need to keep an eye on tomorrow as we continue to reconcile the fantasy value of the Miami Dolphins backfield between Kalen Ballage and Kenyon Drake. It does look like Mark Walton is kind of rising to that running back 3 spot, something to keep an eye on as well. For more fantasy information and detailed analysis from the fantasy football perspective from every training camp on the 2019 RosterWatch.com training camp tour, make sure to visit RosterWatch.com and follow the RosterWatch podcast on iTunes, as well as on Twitter and Instagram at RosterWatch. For an expert quality draft guaranteed, RosterWatch.com.